Bitcoin and the cryptocurrency complex offer tremendous opportunities, but the same fundamentals apply to this as any other investment sector. Fortunately, we have one of the best names in the business to help navigate these digital waters. Alex Saunders is one of the leading experts in the space, currently serving as the founder of crypto content portal Nuggets News. Prior to crypto investing, Mr. Saunders forged a successful career as a head pharmacist. Though Mr. Saunders is a strong proponent of Bitcoin and the blockchain, he also recommends sound investing principles. Otherwise, most people end up repeating the same mistakes they committed in the equities market. To help forge a competent and profitable path forward, we put together a strategy which you can find at crushthestreet.com/crypto. With Bitcoin prices on the verge of another bullish wave, you don't want to miss out on this vital information. Once again, please go to crushthestreet.com/crypto. So without further ado, here's Alex Saunders.
Hello, everyone, and welcome into crushthestreet.com. I'm Kenneth Emmerdary, and I'm joined today with a very special guest, blockchain educator, someone who's really simplified what is going on in crypto. And if you've been around crypto and the first time you learned about it, you're like, man, what is it? Why does this have any value? Sometimes you need a good explanation. And my next guest has done a great job of educating people. He has a premium service and someone who's really been through it during the 2017 epic bull market, educating people, but through the 2018 bear market as well. Someone who's been through the thick and thin and really passionate about the future of crypto. His name is Alex Saunders. He's with nuggetsnews.com.au. You can find him on YouTube, extremely popular YouTube channel, Nuggets News, and someone that we're going to really be able to pick his brain today. Alex, thanks for coming on Crush the Street with me.
I'm really glad to be here with you, Kenneth. Thanks. I'm looking forward to discussing everything that's happening in crypto.
Well, before we do, please tell me how you got involved with crypto. Was it the technology that got you interested? Was it the economy, the stock market, looking for sound money investing, liberty, freedom? I mean, there's so many things attached to Bitcoin per se, or blockchain, decentralization. What attracted you to the space?
So I guess a lot of the same things that you guys talk about. So I'm a pharmacist by trade, and I was at uni, and this was 2008, and my parents had given me some shares for my 21st birthday, so showing my age there. And then the GFC happened, so they crashed pretty hard, and my parents and myself lost a lot of money in that crash. And I sort of said to them, do you still pay your fund manager to lose half your money? And I thought, geez, I reckon I can do a better job than that. So I wanted to learn about shares and investing. It had already been sort of a bit of a hobby, but I went down the rabbit hole about how money works. And that led me, like a lot of people, to gold and silver and sound money, and how this debt-based system just can't keep going on. And then in 2012, there was an article about this thing called Bitcoin on Zero Hedge. And it sort of brought that all together. And I just thought, this is the perfect system here. We live in a digital world. Everything's instant and digital apart from money. And I just knew it was going to catch on. And I got right into it in 2013. And I've been basically reading about it ever since. And obviously, Bitcoin has done really well since then. And then Ethereum came along and showed us that we can do more than just money with blockchain technology. And in 2017, everyone became really excited about it. So I started making some videos on YouTube, and they grew really well, and people just kept asking questions. And before you know it, I was just making a video every day. And as you said, we also run a premium service for people that want regular updates throughout the day as well.
So Alex, I just interviewed Jim Rogers, and his forecast is that we're in an unsustainable situation as it comes to the monetary system. And I'm curious, do you personally believe, if you align some of your beliefs with, maybe his forecasts, as I do you believe that this transfer of wealth, do you think some of it is going to inevitably go into crypto?
Yeah, so I guess when I went down the rabbit hole, I was very much of that mindset that this is all going to crash. And then after a few years, when all these YouTubers keep saying the same thing every year, I was sort of like, oh, I want to explore the other side of this. And sure enough, the money printing and all that has kicked the can down the road. So I don't know if I think that we're going to have this huge crash, but what I do believe that there's a big but. And the but is that central banks have to do something crazier than the last cycle, because the way the debt-based system works is it has to grow the debt as well. So if last time we had 4 trillion in stimulus, next time has to be 10 trillion. And I think it's been really frustrating for a lot of investors and value investors to watch the stock market just completely grind higher and all the old fundamentals go out the window. Now, to relate it to crypto, I'm a big believer that there's too much money out there now and there's not enough underlying assets for it to even find a home in. And there's only a few sectors that haven't had new all-time highs, and that's probably gold and silver. And I'm not going to put on my tinfoil hat and tell you that there's people out there suppressing the price, but I think it's maintained to some degree with all the rehypothecation, and you can put a lot of money in an ETF that's cash settled or futures markets, and it doesn't push up the price of gold at all. So that's what I think the bad guys are going to try and do to crypto to make the pool bigger. But I think a lot of the products that we're getting told about now are fully backed. The Fidelities, the backs, and all that sort of thing. So I'm really excited for those products if they're actually one-to-one backed. But in terms of the limited number or the nature of Bitcoin and other cryptos, I think the price is going to go a lot higher as a small fraction of that money seeks to find a home in a new asset class.
So Alex, we're looking at Bitcoin, $5,300. I mean, it's in the $5,000 range right now. I mean, earlier this year, it was $3,000 range, and it was on its way down since January of 2018, just this bear market, and all of a sudden it just pops, to a pretty large degree here back over $5,000, and we're holding this $5,000 line pretty strongly here. I mean, it's bouncing around, but what does that symbolize to you here at $5,000? Are you noticing a sea change, the community, the investments? I mean, mainstream media maybe talking about it a little bit here and there. What's happening in this latest surge?
So Bitcoin's very a liquid asset. And back in the 2007, at the height of the bull market, we saw that fees went through the roof. So people couldn't even send Bitcoins to an exchange quickly to sell them. So all those things probably drove the price up higher than it maybe otherwise would have gone. And then on the flip side, obviously Bitcoin crashes harder. And I think I've been through 8 of these cycles now where Bitcoin just goes up and down. It's more volatile than any other asset class. And in crypto, an 85% correction is actually fairly normal. If you want to go up 1,000%, you have to be able to stomach these drawbacks as well. If you get in at the wrong time and you realize that you FOMO'd in. But I think at $20,000 or even $15,000, we knew that the smart money hadn't really got a seat at the table yet. And they wait for a pullback. And once it got to $3,000 and 80%, 85% down, that is typically the time in every cycle that the smart money and the next wave of people have begun accumulating. And if we look at all the fundamentals, the on-chain volumes, the whales and the top 100 addresses, they've increased their holdings of Bitcoin and Ethereum and Litecoin. So everything is pointing to me that we're in this sort of accumulation band. And the only thing that could take us to new lows is some really bad news. And even the Tether news lately hasn't been able to shift the market. And the fact that everything bad news was crushing the market in 2018. And now we've had something that everyone feared, some bad news about Tether, and the market doesn't even go down 5%. That tells me that sentiment has changed now.
Yeah, and we did see some movement down on the Tether news, which I thought was interesting. Tether isn't as stable as, everyone thought. And that is supposed to shake Bitcoin, which is the hedge against unstable currencies and, currencies we can't trust. And it's fractional reserve to a certain degree, which again, it shouldn't be overly correlated to, Bitcoin or Ethereum. But yet the headline news really, to a certain degree, shook the market a little bit, which is arguably not correlated. But, I don't think a lot of people understand Bitcoin. They don't understand Ethereum. They don't know the difference. They just see cryptocurrency and then that's it. So what are your thoughts on this?
Oh, it's one of the most frustrating aspects of crypto as a fundamental investor. When we believe that you should be looking for projects in individual industries that are using blockchain, that have the probability to disrupt and capture market share. And the fact that they're in all these completely different industries, and if Bitcoin goes down, they all drop, to the same degree or higher. It is very, very frustrating. When Binance and probably Maker have been two projects that have been able to shake that slightly because they're just such standouts. But I think in the future, we're going to see it become like the stock market where they trade on their individual merits. You're completely right that it shouldn't move it as much as it does. But then we also have the very wild conspiracies out there that Tether's just been printed out of thin air and it's the only thing that's driven Bitcoin's price up through margin trading on Bitfinex over a number of years now. And I certainly don't believe that to be true at all.
A lot of people, they advocate for a gold standard. And just as a side note, I mean, it's this once again indirectly shows what a quote unquote gold standard could look like and how it could be completely fraudulent. And, sure, it's people say it's backed by gold, but is it really backed by gold? And, we can go down every conspiracy, even like you mentioned before. But when it's all said and done, it's the actual gold. It's the actual Bitcoin. It's the actual solid asset that you can actually trust, because in the end, all these other derivatives are speculative in that sense.
And if I can just expand on your point a little bit, I think we are going to see a market in the future where we already have these gold-backed and silver-backed tokens, and they're going to grow in popularity because they are backed and it's provable that they're backed. Whereas all of a sudden, why are you going to buy a futures contract if you're not sure the gold's there? Or if Germany's trying to rehypothecate their gold and it takes 7 years, they're going to get their gold from somewhere where they know it is there and it's provable. And all of a sudden, we kind of slowly make these other markets irrelevant. And if people actually want gold or silver for delivery, for incorporation into iPhones, these blockchain-based projects might be the place to go. And they might be the canary in the gold mine where they say, guys, we can't get silver anywhere now, yet it's still trading at the same price on COMEX. And that's how the true price discovery begins.
Yeah, I've talked to a few guys on that, and I think that's a really exciting way. And, I hope that we see that in very short order here. And I think it's inevitable, but, we'll see how long the shenanigans, I guess, can go on for, and I won't speculate. But Alex, you mentioned Binance, and that's something that I wanted to bring up here in this conversation. Bitcoin as the benchmark has, 20,000 back to 3,000. It's trickled its way higher, and much of the other tokens has followed suit. But Binance has recovered beyond its 2018 high, which I think is very interesting. I mean, there's some fundamental build out going on with the Binance coin. So I'd like to get your thoughts on that. And is it also symbolic of the fundamental growth that's going on in cryptocurrency that people should look towards and say, hey, this whole community is getting built out and it's not going away?
I think Binance is a great example of why we are all drawn to crypto. The ICO price was around 12 cents, I think. So at one stage, you're up 200-fold when it hit $24, which is just not possible on the stock market, those sort of returns. But what people realized during the bear market was there's a lot of fake trading volumes out there. When you look at coin market cap, I don't believe any of it. And the fact is that Binance have the majority of the real volume, and they're the only ones that are making a lot of money. And then they use that, a percentage of that to burn BNB tokens. And that's just another thing that puts upward pressure on price. But we made a video called Binance Fundamental Analysis when it was $4 and said, guys, there are just too many ducks lining up now. This is, I believe, undervalued because Binance are going to start doing these initial exchange offerings and you're going to have to use your BNB token. And this is exactly what caused Ethereum to run. They're the number one exchange. CZ has just become a dominant player. They're looking to get into charity and all these other initiatives, and they're looking to launch their DEX, which is going to use BNB again. So there was so many things that were going to cause BNB to go up. And here we are now. It's done a 600% return since then. And I think there was just too many things for people to ignore. And the other project I touched on just quickly was Maker. And everyone's excited about decentralized finance, and they are number one in that area, 90% market share for people that have taken out loans using Ethereum. And it's those best two projects where you just can't ignore the fundamentals and the user growth anymore that have performed the best, which is exciting to see.
Yeah, and then for all of the people out there who are just so negative on the future of crypto, I mean, I think, there's no way for them to be like, oh, I'm wrong, because it's still around, and they can just say it's going to happen sometime. And, there's nobody that can be proved wrong here. But I think the more we see an upward rising price in overall cryptos, the more people are going to be able to say, hey, this is resilient. It's around for the long haul. And so in that vein here, I know there are certain countries that are more favorable towards crypto than others. We know Japan has been very favorable towards crypto. The Philippines recently approved 10 crypto exchanges. And I just want to ask you, is this country, the Philippines, are they preparing for the inevitable? I mean, there's so many countries out there that are trying to block crypto, but, are the Philippines preparing for the inevitable? In also preparing for the flow of capital. If they're like a first mover in the crypto space, capital will flow there for people interested in crypto projects. At least that's how I believe it to play out. But what are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, that is a great question. And recently I got invited to speak to the Australian government about this, hey, how friendly are we towards technology and startups in Australia compared to the rest of the world? And there's two sort of ends of the scale, where we have the US, which tend to be well policed and very, very cautious about securities regulation in particular. And Australia is becoming a bit of a nanny state as well, and it's very frustrating for me. And then we have the Maltas of the world and the developing nations, which they don't really have anything to lose. And they say, why not? We want all this money to come here, all these innovation and startups, best minds in a new industry. Hell yeah, come here and bring all your wealth with you that you've got from investing in crypto. So I think that's the kind of two ends of the spectrum. And just as individuals get FOMO, I think we're going to see governments and countries, we're already getting a little bit of that, where if Malta is wanting to become the crypto capital, all of a sudden, as you said, Thailand, Singapore, whatever it is, these other countries and regions say, yeah, we want to open our gates up as well to this money and this innovation. And it's very frustrating banging your head against the wall, watching these people leave or not set up in Australia. Or I'm sure you've seen it in, New York with the bit license, they move to another state or move out of America altogether. And they're kind of shooting themselves in the foot, I think. So, yeah.
It's true. And we see it time and time again with overreaching big brother government. They chase capital away, and it's so frustrating. In that vein, what sort of balance of government acceptance and compliance does crypto need to succeed, while at the same time it is the ultimate opt-out? You know what I mean? Opt-out of government, and so there's this dichotomy that the governments are dealing with, where it's inevitable on one hand, but it's enabling the growth of this opt-out of the system that they want everyone in. And we saw Coinbase really on-ramp so many people, but at the sacrifice of maybe some freedom, connecting it to your bank account, your name, and some privacy situations which weren't exactly the goal of Bitcoin in the first place, but it really on-ramped a lot of people and arguably was responsible for the 2017 bull market. So in your opinion, what's the balance of this?
Yeah, in Australia, the Australian Tax Office literally came out yesterday and said we've launched our monitoring program with all these exchanges, because crypto fever was crazy in Australia. There's something like 250 exchanges for 25 million people population. And they came out today and said, we're monitoring everything you do. If you don't pay your taxes, they said we're going to help you pay your taxes. That was the phrase. But anyway, so a lot of people do go into it from this freedom libertarian perspective, but at the same time, at the moment, if you live in one of these countries, you're going to do extremely well, I believe, in the next few years. So just, pay your taxes and buy your nice home and be happy with what you've got. But at the same time, we might see that really gradual erosion of that currency in other countries, in developing nations. Venezuela, for example, local Bitcoin's volumes there are through the roof. That's becoming the currency of that nation. So again, this is a sliding scale depending on what country you're in. But yeah, it's very hard to tell people to just ignore the legacy system, because it's going to get you in a lot of trouble if you do that in certain countries. But I'm not sure. And this is where the big fight is going to come out against privacy coins, because they can't track them.
Yeah. So in conclusion here, everyone's excited for what is to come, the next big wave. And in your opinion, what is the next big wave going to stem from? Is it STOs? Is it a monetary aspect? Is it utility tokens? Where is this going to come from, in your opinion?
So just to build on the final thought there as well, I think the biggest fight we've got is when Bitcoin and Ethereum implement privacy in the next 12 to 24 months, and a lot of governments are going to get very upset at that. In terms of the next wave of excitement, a lot of people are hanging their hat on STOs, but I don't think that's going to drive the same sort of retail euphoria as we saw. Anything that's a security is very slow moving. There's procedures. It's a mature space. A lot of it happens behind closed doors. So I don't think we're going to ever see a huge FOMO in that space or whatnot. It's going to cause a lot of growth of digital assets, but I don't think it's going to get retail investors super rich as the possibilities were in 2017. What I do think is that in some ways we haven't learned our lessons. And if you look at how quickly we've gone from 3 to 5,000, if you look at how quickly people have thrown money at these IEOs on exchanges, which I don't believe are good projects, they're selling 5% of the tokens, a tiny little chunk, and giving these projects $100 million valuation while they hold 95% of the tokens to dump on you in the next 2 years. I sort of look at this and every day I think people haven't really learned anything. The percent of people that are doing their own research and picking good projects is probably 1% of people out of everyone in crypto. But then we also have the fact that people in crypto are 1% of the global population. So I think we're going to have at least one, if not two more of these big cycles, and the fundamentals go out the window and we have a big bubble just like the .com, except this time global.
Yeah. Absolutely. Alex, I want to thank you for coming on Crush the Street with me. If people want to learn more about Nuggets News, what you do, the services you offer, please let them know where they can go and what they can expect to find.
So yeah, guys, we're Nuggets News on all the regular social medias. I do videos every day on YouTube. Head to nuggetsnews.com.au if you want more information about everything else we do for people.
Alex, thank you again for coming on Crush.
Thanks, Kenneth. It's been a pleasure, mate. Have a great day.